Hey everybody, I am back with my episode 5 review of Starfleet Academy. This one was a mixed bag for me. I like the character of Sam. I think she works as sort of a bubbly, almost comic relief kind of character because of, just kind of the way they've crafted her personality. And it's not to say that she can't have, deeper moments, and I do appreciate those. My problem is that this episode was tonally inconsistent. You know, it's going for just full on jokes, trying to almost play as a more like a more of a like comedy show episode, but then trying to interweave ties back to Deep Space Nine and you know even just kind of, but with the addition of Dax and, some of the comments from the doctor about mortality, I thought maybe this was going to go in a way where we were going to get something a bit deeper, a bit more thoughtful, but it really couldn't balance out that middle section, which, with, you know, Sam, being programmed to feel drunk and things like that. It just did not work. And that's not to say that there aren't elements to like. I mean, like I said, I like the character of Sam. I think Sam works, especially as almost like I said, almost a comic relief kind of character, without being full on just only there for comic relief. But it makes it difficult to just kind of come out of nowhere and just be like, oh, okay, we're serious now with this character. And especially when you're interspersing it with so many just straight up jokes, um, that it just creates this tonal shift that kind of veers all over. Um, I mean, obviously, I've seen online all the comparisons to Sam basically being Mork from Mork and Mindy. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of elements to that episode that are very, Mork going off to call Orson, and even up to the end of the episode where, Sam relays her what she's learned. I mean, that's straight out of Mork and Mindy. I mean, that's straight, the end of the episode, Mork talking to Orson about what the message of the episode was. Um, so, for a show that's been fairly strong over the first 4 episodes, this one was a bit of a disappointment, especially, because it does bring in characters and, teases, kind of, teases big reveals of things that tie into Deep Space Nine without really getting there. But, I do think that the strongest parts of the episode are the moments with Sam and Jake. And I do think those are really the strongest parts of the episode. Um, do I think that they needed to do Dax as a big reveal? Probably not. Because now I worry that every time we get a character from even, a past show, like, or a reference to them, it's going to be done in this sort of kind of cheesy build up reveal kind of thing. Um, which I don't know if that's necessary. I think that you could have had Sam learn that Dax was Dax, and that's why, she was so insistent on being there, other than just for whatever reason having her, big, high up people telling her that she needed to take that class. Like, that just was kind of weird. Like, you could have just had her go, oh, wait, you worked with Benjamin Sisko. Like, you worked with him. You're like, okay, we can talk. Like, let's talk. I need to learn this. And Dax just kind of being like, I don't even know who you are. Like, what is this? Like, no. And then convincing, from there, um, and building out that relationship from there. And I think that would have been more interesting, especially then when you get to all the moments with Jake. It makes those moments hit a little harder because that she already knows she's talking to somebody who knew these people firsthand, but is just kind of being like, no, you figure it out for yourself. I'm not just going to hand walk you through this. I think would have made the episode more interesting instead of getting lost in the weeds of like, oh, okay, we're going to program her to feel drunk. I mean, that whole sequence to me added nothing. Like, this was definitely kind of a filler episode, unfortunately. So, all in all, like I said, there's stuff there to like in this episode, but it's definitely inconsistent. I would probably give this episode a 2 out of 5. Definitely not the best. Um, it will be interesting to see where we go from here. But, it's definitely for kind of a mixed bag first episode, which all Star Trek has kind of a mixed bag first episode, to kind of moving into a more strong and steady and, just kind of locking in at a level of quality, um, you know, to take quite a dip down, is concerning, because we're what, halfway through the season? And, eh, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm hoping that they can kind of right the ship and get back on track, but if this is, the sign of a slide for the rest of the season, that's going to be kind of rough. That's going to be kind of rough. So, again, as with all these, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Please keep it constructive. I'm going to put this out here on this video because, I've tried doing posts about it and everything else. Look, I don't care if you don't like the show. I don't have a problem if you don't like the show. But you need to actually give me, like, valid things to have a discussion about. Because if you're just going in there and you're doing the rage bait shtick and you're doing the just, 2-word, it sucks, it's not real Star Trek, blah, 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 blah. There are 100 rage bait channels out there that will cater to your every culture war whim. But see, I'm not playing that game. If you want to have a honest, artistic discussion, then we can engage and we can have a good discussion. But if you're just going to get all, like, weird about the stuff, then your comments getting deleted. I just don't have the time or the energy to deal with it. Got it? So let me know what you think. What do you think about the slide in quality of this episode? Do you disagree and think that it was actually really fun and interesting? Then let me know in the comments and we'll have a discussion about what worked for you that didn't work for me. So let's talk about it in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.